Welcome to my review of Strangers of Paradise Final Fantasy Origins. As always, this review is simply my opinion, so take it how you want it. If you decide to pick up the game, go enjoy it for yourself and make your own opinion of it. With that said, let's go ahead and get started. Strangers of Paradise Final Fantasy Origins is considered to be an action RPG by Square Enix and Team Ninja. It was originally often described as a Souls-like game in which you lead Jack on a journey to find and defeat Chaos. FFOs mostly played in somewhat linear instances similar to the dungeons one might find in an MMO like World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy XIV, in which you use different job classes to fight your way through to a final boss. Given the ability to change kind of between two separate job classes during combat, you try to do your best to break each enemy before being able to trigger a soul burst that grants you the magic points you need. You then spend these magic points to fuel your command abilities, weapon combos, and magic. The overall story of the game is fairly linear without much deviation. You start meeting Ash and Jed, and then the game leads you through a meeting with the King of Cornelia and Princess Sarah, and then you're kind of pushed along to this fight with who you perceive to be Garland at the Shrine of Chaos. However, this turns out to be a giant swerve, as after the fight you find Neon, a young girl that had tried to become Chaos to force the Warriors of Light prophecy. It's here you learn all four characters have also lost their memories, with Jack not really caring about that. After hearing the entire prophecy from the king, you are then tasked with restoring the crystals of wind, fire, earth, and water. A short trip to Provoca adds little to the actual story, but does introduce you to the pirate captain Bicky, who only serves as a way to send you to the king of the Dark Elves, Astos. Astos then sends you to the Wind Crystal Shrine, where you fight Tiamat, who, in another swerve, turns into Sophia, your final character. A little side note here, having seen Tiamat in the game, it kind of upset me that Bahamut wasn't thrown in here at some point. This mostly comes from a D&D standpoint, Tiamat being the queen dragon of evil in Dungeons & Dragons, and Bahamut being the king of the good dragons, so to speak, to put it in pretty layman terms. Anyway, you then use the shrine that is actually a space station to locate and fix the other three crystals, each time gaining back parts of your memory as you go. After defeating each of the fiends at the crystals, you return to Cornelia, where the people actually accuse you of being an agent of Chaos because the darkness that you were trying to get rid of was starting to become more prevalent. After defending Cornelia from Captain Bicky and his darkness-infused crew, you are then led to the ancient tower to confront Astos. Astos explains that he is simply an observer left behind by the Lufinians, a highly advanced interdimensional civilization, to report back to them about the balance of light and darkness within Cornelia. After defeating Astos, your characters regain most of their memories that show them to be Lufinian agents, tasked with destroying the built-up darkness within Cornelia, their memories being wiped each time, and if they fail, Lufinia would simply reset the world of Cornelia. They become disgusted for Lufinia's treatment of Cornelia, and this caused Jack and company to plot with Astos to find a way to break the hold on Cornelia. They knew that Lufinia feared the darkness because it can combine with human emotions to create chaos, the one true force that Lufinia can't control. As Astos dies, the darkness he stockpiled in his body begins to cover the land. The group returns to Cornelia, but not in time to actually save anyone. It's here you learn that Jack and Princess Sarah were in love literally moments before the rest of the group attacks you and makes him kill them in self-defense. Jack absorbs the darkness that they leave behind and uses this to create a portal to Lufinia. Here, Jack absorbs what's known as Darkness Manifest to become Chaos itself. Out of fear, Lufinia severs its connection with Cornelia, warning Jack that four warriors of light will one day find him to fulfill the prophecy. Jack then uses his newfound power to create conditions within the world that would allow for these warriors of light to actually come about through Cornelia itself instead of being sent by Lufinia. He then finds himself 200 years in the past with his four friends. As they begin to lay the groundwork to create these warriors of light, Jack takes his throne to wait for his final confrontation. However, in doing so, he takes up his family name of Garland. Now, my overall synopsis. Final Fantasy Origins really kind of took to the saying, you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. They really played that out, in my opinion, to a bad way. The outcome of the story is fairly easy to predict pretty early in the game if you're paying attention to the story part of it, and the latter parts don't really seem to make it any better. While I enjoyed the job classes, especially anybody who watched the videos knows I love the Dragoon class. I love everything about the spears and so forth. It wasn't till later on in the game when you could actually use different weapons in a singular class that I really started to enjoy these. I also had a very big love-hate relationship with how equipment worked in this game. It's not so easy to kind of just look at the equipment and go, okay, this is better. You have to know the class you're looking at. You have to look at your weapon combos to figure out what stats you actually want to have high, and it just becomes a headache. And it gets worse the further in you get, in my opinion. Also, unlike most games that I enjoy, there were times where in order to progress the main story, you had to do side quests. You had to do these things to get your characters up to the gear level they need to be before you could even try to attempt the next level. It was disheartening to say the least. I know that's kind of a common theme in Souls games, and that's fine. It would have been fine here if this was a more open world game where I could have said, okay, so I can't go this way just yet because my gear score is not good. I want to go over here. But instead, it's set in, like I said, these linear dungeon style just instances. And that kind of turned me off because I don't want to have to keep running the same thing over and over and over again. That's what you do in an MMO, and you can do it in an MMO because it's fun, because you have to get different party members and you're involved and stuff like that. But when you're doing it by yourself, it becomes a chore. All in all, as it comes to Strangers of Paradise Final Fantasy Origins, currently it's a game that I might pick back up when the DLCs come out just to see what the DLCs are. And if I'm ever in the mood for just a game where I can just jump on and mindlessly beat the crap out of bad guys, then yeah, I'll probably play it, because there are plenty of places you can just jump in and soar through, especially at the gear level that I'm at now. I don't think it'll ever be a game that I really, really recommend for other people, but this is just my opinion.